Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. All right, welcome everyone. My guest is Sharyn Galindo, and Sharon and I met through a mutual friend. I mean, I know that I don't know if you worked with Marco or he's your friend, but Marco and I worked together in a past life several years ago, and he was, I think you work with him now, and he's like, this is someone you need to talk to for your podcast. And I always am just happily drawn to whoever I get introduced to, because I think it's the universe saying, okay, should be the next person for your podcast. So thanks for being here. I'm glad we're meeting.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So Sharon, I don't know a ton about your background. I know you're in health and wellness. Yes.
Yes.
And so tell the audience what you do now, what you love about it, and how you got to be where you are now. Because most of the time it's not a straight line, right?
No, it's not a straight line at all. So I own what's called True North Yoga and Wellness, which is really kind of an iteration of what I started 25 years ago. So I opened up my business back in 1996 as like a boutique fitness and yoga studio. And then we evolved to really just yoga. And then I grew to 3 studios here on the North Shore, and fast forward to 2020 and they're all closed. And so we shifted online. So I now offer a virtual platform for yoga and meditation and all of that, and really expanding my own wellness coaching. So that's really what I do now. So we're kind of this evolved business.
I'm glad to hear you're saying evolved, because I think obviously it's not a good thing that the yoga studios closed, but if you weren't willing to evolve and you weren't willing to change what you were doing, that's just the end of it. Instead of saying, how can I serve in a different way, and what do people need and what will people use right now? So kudos to you for doing that, because a lot of people would have just said, okay, well, I'm not going to do anything, which that doesn't serve anyone, right?
It's been a big pivot. I guess that's the one thing about being an entrepreneur is you end up going okay, well, quick shift. What do we do now? So yeah.
Good for you. So you're in mindfulness, meditation, and yoga, all that good stuff. I've loved learning more about over the last several years. I even have a book about mindfulness. I have a chapter about mindfulness in my book, and I know how important it is. And I don't do yoga regularly, but I like Pilates, and
All right.
I just like that better than yoga, but I'm not opposed to doing yoga. It just hasn't worked as well for me as Pilates. But what I wanted to ask is, 25 years ago, you said that was it wasn't like a normal thing to be doing yoga. I know it's been around forever, but it wasn't talked about like it is now. It's just everyone knows what the word means. Everyone knows what the practice means. So how did you come about it back then, all those years ago, and say, okay, this is what I want to study or teach? Or
it's I know, it's crazy, right? Back then it was so different, we were still using cassette tapes, Julie,
Right.
It was a whole different world. We didn't even have online stuff. So yeah, I came to it. So I started the business. I had been in health and a lot of the fitness stuff. And, it started out as a boutique kind of fitness piece. And then we added in the yoga probably by 98, because I was getting really into it. I needed yoga for so many different reasons. Mm-hmm. That is a whole other podcast probably. Mm-hmm. And so, I got people to do yoga, because you're right, it was very new. I got people to do yoga at the end of other classes. So maybe we were teaching spinning, and we started doing a spin in yoga, and it's been, I added it on. And then people loved it. Like it just grew and grew and grew until like basically we just got rid of the other like kind of fitness aspects and just went full out like yoga studios, and that's kind of how it happened. It was like a really slow introduction. People couldn't even, back then people wouldn't even like om or do, they were like, what?
Yeah, they're like mantra.
Yeah. Right. It was like, we're not doing that stuff, So it took a really long time. And now like I'm fascinated at how comfortable everyone is. So when I think about like how long it took us to get there, it was, it was like a slow education for people.
I love that you took it and added it on to the stuff people were already familiar with and you were doing. That was also very smart, because a lot of people will say, I have heard people say, so maybe you wanted to just do yoga. And so instead of saying, well, I'm not going to do spin, everyone sign up for this yoga class, they would have been like, what are we even doing? And then if it didn't work, you would have been like, okay, well now what I want to do isn't going to work. Instead of saying, how can I like infuse? How can I add? How can I supplement what I'm doing with what I really want to do, and then see where that goes? Because a lot of people have this all or nothing mentality. I have to try this, and if it's not this, then it's done. Or this is the only way to do it now, so I have to do it that way, or I can't do it. It's like, that's not true. It's almost never true.
It's never true. I mean, we started out, like I called it, like we taught spinning and we called it mindful spin. We did like an hour and a half class. It was like 45 minutes of spin, 45 minutes of yoga. And like before you knew it, like people were just getting into it, but it was, it was a while. I mean, it was kind of funny, but it was fun. And,
No, it's so, it's a great lesson in, I think the word pivot, everyone's saying pivot, but just adapting and evolving and figuring out what's going to work for you. And I was just doing a podcast with a younger guy who's an entrepreneur, and he was saying, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that my generation, me, it was more like, you have to be prepared, of course, and you have to do good work. And I think we were taught more like everything has to be completely perfect before you present it to the world. And I think the younger people coming up, and they're more like, all right, fail fast, try this, try that. If that doesn't work. And it's just a better mentality. Obviously it has some flaws sometimes, but in general, not being afraid to try something, even though it's not completely perfect, because good is better than, what's the saying? Good is better than, oh my gosh, no, it's escaping my mind.
Perfect, maybe, or something.
Yeah, so it's something like that. Like, go ahead, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's better than not doing it at all. But it's a true testament, especially for entrepreneurs, to say, like, this is what I want to build, and how can I tweak it and supplement it and do something different so that I can still have what I want and serve people in the way that they need to be served. So great lesson. That's a great leadership lesson. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, no, I was just thinking about that, because every studio that I've opened, and it's never perfect when you first open, like you want everything to be in or out. And half the times I would have to be like, okay, fine, the floor isn't totally finished over here, and the bathroom doesn't have this up, and we don't have this in, but I can, the basics are in, we can start. And so, I learned that kind of early on, because
that's so smart. I know I've been in this trap before. I think women especially will call out what's not right. We'll say like, thank you, welcome to my studio, the bathroom's not done, and welcome to my studio. Like we just were always like, and no one even noticed it until you said it. And no one said to you, boy, Sharon, I'm not going to come up to your studio until the floor's done. Your floor's not done, is it? We do that to ourselves, and then we're stressed out about it. And the people around us are like, this is great. Who cares that your floor is not done? Who cares if the bathroom doesn't have a hook or whatever it is? Right. We do that to ourselves. And then we stop ourselves from getting what we want and building what we want, because we think it has to be perfect. And really, we're the ones telling ourselves that.
Exactly.
I don't know if you're married, but I've been married for 25 years almost. And my husband's never been like, oh, is that perfect? Oh, it's not perfect, then we're not doing it. I mean, men don't do that, right?
He wouldn't even think about it.
No,
it was
they just
like,
don't.
Okay.
And I mean, really back.
I have all boys in my house. So, I always, good for you. Okay. So I have 2 boys. So I laugh, because I'll be like, oh my God, like there's clutter everywhere. There's this or that. And they're like, well, what's wrong with it? Like, it looks fine to me.
Yeah.
Like,
they don't even notice that. Yeah. Cause it's something you want. I know. Same way. I have boys, and they're just better at just accepting things the way they are. Mm-hmm. I think it's just the mentality of men and boys in general, but women, I don't know. We can learn a lot from them. Obviously, we both have our pros and our cons, right?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, okay, what do you think as an early entrepreneur and changing things around and figuring out how you wanted to add what you were loving to your business? What made you successful along the way? What made you stick with it? What made you peaceful and happy along the way, even though you were still building and when you had to shift things and stuff?
What made you peaceful and happy along the way? It was all bliss.
Yeah. Some people say, well, it wasn't along the way. I'm like, well, you had to be to create it. You could have stopped and been unhappy for 20 years and then we're happy.
Right, that's true. Good point. Yeah, it hasn't always felt like work, that's for sure. Most of what I do doesn't. But, you know, I really practice these things. You know, like I guess I'd say like I'm very disciplined and, you know, I guess let's go back to this. I think with being an entrepreneur, a lot of people say you have to be like really thick-skinned, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe think that. I am not thick-skinned at all. But I would say that I'm resilient and I'm like very disciplined, and I practice all of those habits of gratitude and mindfulness and self-compassion and breathing and you name it. So everything, you know, I get down and then I pull myself back up and start again. Do it again, get back up, do something, because down here again, nowhere. So yes, I would say I really do all these things.
It's not an accident, right? So you're probably, I don't know how old your boys are, but you've probably been teaching them all of those same things you just mentioned to me, but we don't really think about women, how we're doing it along the way. We just do it. And this is what I'm used to doing. And I'll just get it back up or whatever. But when you think about the lessons you want to teach and legacies you want to leave and success stories you want to share, it's usually those resilience and, you know, what you're practicing. It makes a difference what you're practicing every day, but you don't get up and say, I'm going to practice this because it's going to make a difference every day. You just say, this is what makes me feel good. And this is what makes me feel healthy and happy and do all the other things I'm doing. But I don't think until recently we've really talked about what the practices are in place. It's not just mindset, obviously that's important, but it's not just thinking and believing, it's having all these other things, these tools and these skills, so that when you're going along your day and things don't go as planned, something has to close down and you weren't expecting or whatever, you can go back to all these other things that you do on a regular basis, whether things are going well or not, and know that those things will carry you through. And I think so one big thing I've taught my boys as they were growing, they're college age now, but leading by example and then sharing with them the things that are going to make them feel a little bit better, instead of just like work hard, because that's so it's abstract, it's important, but it's not all there is. And it's not just busting your butt, it's all these other things that go along with it. So I'm glad now that this is more of the norm that we're talking about, instead of before it was like woo woo, you know, oh, I just say what I'm grateful for and I'll have a good life. It's really simplifying it, but kind of yes, but it's hard to teach people how impactful it can be until they start doing it.
I know, you know, and I kind of feel like it's like this like Swiss Army knife, you know, like, okay, what do I need today? You know, like what should I pull out that I can use? And even with my boys, like they're super, they would say like, oh, whatever, mom, you know, but like I would say most of our life, this is kind of, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I am. We have sat down at the dinner table and I have everybody say, okay, what's one thing you're grateful for? And, you know, everybody's just used to it now. And so it could be anything where they roll their eyes and they're like food, you know, or, you know, but it could be like, oh, this happened. And so now over time, I just do it. And it's just been like kind of like a secret way of me just being like, well, let's just shift, because we could come back with like, oh, this day and this today and this today. But if we just kind of like slightly shift in one little way of like, yeah, this one good thing happened.
Yes. So there's always something good. Yes, I've been modeling this forever, and you're right, especially when they were younger teenagers and they roll their eyes, but they knew. And then I would see them doing it when I was nearby, but I wasn't really necessarily communicating with them. I'd see them do it. I'm like, okay. Or, you know, just pointing something out to me and I'm like, okay, good. It's rubbing off on them. And it's not something I have to be like, okay, remember, like you said, you just ask them a question every day. It's not like, it's not say what you're grateful for every day. It's like, what were you grateful for today? And let's talk about that. And they're reminded, and they're probably doing it with their friends too. You don't even know it.
I overheard my son saying something to his girlfriend, like, well, what are 3 things you're grateful for? You should write that down every day. And I was like, You know?
Best. I love that. That's the best. Have they thrown it back in your face at all? Like once in a while I'll hear, they'll do that to me. They're like, Mom, remember? I'm like, oh yeah. Usually I don't have to, but when it happens, I'm like, they're right. It's a good reminder. And I'm glad.
They do. Of course they do.
Yeah.
It's forever.
It's so funny. Yeah. Okay. So what advice would you have for someone searching for a meaningful career? One where they can use their strengths, because as you know, using your strengths is what's going to make you the happiest, and your gifts to the world, whatever they are going to make you the most fulfilled. So what do you say to your kids, and what do you say to even people that are maybe older and trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives?
Good. Well, it's hard. Like, so my boys I have a junior in high school and I have a sophomore in college. Mm-hmm. So I'm like right in the middle of that, like, okay, well, what do you do? And my older one is like super focused, like, especially now with college, because it's like an investment. You got to have this return on your investment. You don't want to mess around. And so he's like super, I'm doing this and I'm going to make this amount of money. And, and I get kind of nervous because it's like, well, okay, this is great. You're super talented at this. You should do it. But like, just be open to the possibility that might shift. And then my other one is like, has no idea, struggles with school. And I'm like, why don't you take your time? Like, maybe you should take like a year and go to community college, figure it out. So I'm saying all that because I think that people need to be really open to the possibility of change and to get away from this like shoulds, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that, and really build that sense of like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like really more self-awareness. So it's like, to thine own self be true, right? Isn't like, it's just like making sure that you can use your strengths and be open to doing it in different ways, to really listen.
So it's so true. And both my boys, same thing. One is more driven than the other. One is more focused and determined than the other. One's more laid back. And we've modeled the same things to them for years. And but we don't say the same thing to each one of them, because we know this one's going to react this way, and this one's going to react this way. So obviously you get to know them better, and then you say, okay, this is what I need to say to this one. This is what's going to motivate him. This is what's going to demotivate him. My husband and I, when they were younger, we used to say, I'm not getting through to him. I'm like, well, because he's me. And because you're talking to him, like when you talk to me, it was like, when you said this word, I was done. So anything you say after that, even if it's really, really valuable, it's gone. It's like, it's not even in the vortex anymore. So you might as well just stop talking. Right, but you have to learn that stuff early, because you have to be, the person that you're talking to needs to be open to receiving it. And if you're saying the wrong lesson you're saying one lesson to the wrong kid, it doesn't matter how good the lesson is or how good whatever it is, the tool, it doesn't matter, because that kid's not going to take it and run with it. And I think this is important too in business, really, especially for managers and leaders, to say like, not everyone is motivated the same way. That's obviously for sure. Yeah. Not everyone wants to be recognized the same way. Not everyone wants the same thing. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by recognition and esteem. Some people couldn't care less about any of those things, and they just want to be purposeful every day. But if you're giving the wrong lesson to a person that doesn't care about money, and you're talking about motivating them with, a commission or whatever it is, it's going to be lost.
Yeah.
And not everyone understands that. Obviously the better leaders really understand that. But I think the main point I want to make is, the sooner you can understand that as a parent or a leader or an entrepreneur, the easier things are going to be for that child or that business or that team, because it's like the world's best kept secret. And if you spend your life doing the wrong thing, it doesn't matter how good you are at the other things you're doing. You're not going to motivate those people. And then no one's going to be successful in their careers or in your company, because you're doing it the wrong way. It's like parenting. If you're going to do it the wrong way, you're not going to get the result you want.
Yeah, but even in this way, like on the other aspect, I think like, okay, you might be really good at something, but you hate it. Right? So it's like, okay, so like be open to like, if you need to like shift gears, right? So, I mean, I think it's on both sides. It's recognizing like, oh, they're not really happy, right? Like whether you're. I
love that. Yeah. I love
right.
That. Yeah. If you're not good, just because you're good at it doesn't mean it's what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's a really important one. When I was graduated from college, when I was in college, people used to say to me, well, you're great at talking to people. You should be in sales. I'm like, okay. So I got a marketing degree in like junior year, middle of junior year in college. I'm like, oh, marketing is going to be like selling. And I don't like selling. And I'm like, just because I'm good with people doesn't mean I'm not motivated by money. That does not motivate me at all. It never has. So it was just like this aha moment, like, well, I want to help people and I want to teach and I love learning. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. But that whole time I was just like I was listening to what other people were telling me I was good at. And just because I was good at people, I was equating it to, sales. And so probably 3 people said that to me. I'm like, you could do lots of things if you're good with people other than sales. You could be a doctor, obviously.
Yeah.
But I was just going down that path and I was like, okay, I'll just pick this thing because I'm good at it and it will come easily to me. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how good I am at it. I'm never going to be successful at it because I'm not motivated by money. And if you're selling, you have to be motivated by money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it. Just, and then I didn't really have people, I wasn't bouncing these ideas off people. I was just listening to what people were telling me. And instead of listening to here, like you were saying, knowing myself and being self-aware, I just knew I wanted to help people. And I thought, this is the way I'm going to do it. And then as soon as I figured that out, so I was 19 or 20, like I'm going to get a degree in teaching, but I knew, I'm not going to stop my education and start over right now as a junior in college. I'll finish my last year, then I got a master's in teaching because I knew that's what I wanted to do. But instead of stopping, and it was the best thing because I have the business degree and the teaching degree, and those work really well together in corporate training. So it ended up being what I needed. So I'm glad I went down that path anyways, but it's just funny when you listen to people and you don't have the right people guiding you. You're just, it takes you a little bit longer. You probably find your way there eventually, but wouldn't it be nice? This is why I have the podcast and the book. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if you could get there sooner?
Right. Isn't that the truth? Right. Yeah.
And had parents guiding you the right way and telling you the right things and just helping you. It's about asking the right questions. It sounds like you're doing with your boys too. It's like, it's really, really important, especially at their ages.
Yeah. It's tough to be a teenager.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. What advice would you have for someone? Oh, we did that one. What do you wish you had learned earlier in your life or career? Is there anything that you just wish, gosh, if I had known that sooner?
Besides yoga when I was like 10 years old? No. I wish I'd learned it. Yeah. I think it would have been easier if I had like really developed that growth mindset. I think we all have like kind of that fixed and growth mindset combo, but it took me a while to get really good at making mistakes. Yeah. Like, I think without a doubt, as an entrepreneur, like I've gotten really, really good at it over time. But in the beginning, it was kind of painful. Like, even if they're like little mistakes, like you just get like, like all hung up over it. Mm-hmm. Now it's like part of the whole shebang, mm-hmm. So I think I wish I had gotten more open to that earlier on. It would have like saved me a couple of years in there, but now I just live by, I think it's, actually, I don't know if it's Winston Churchill or something, but it's like, success is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Have you heard that? I think that's who it is, but it's like that. I mean, I kind of like live by that, like, okay, what's next? Like, okay, keep going, get back up, figure it out. So yeah, I think I wish I had been more open to it earlier on.
Love that. Mistakes are part of it. And what a great thing to teach your boys too, because like everyone always talks about have them having to decide at 17 or 18 what they want to do for the rest of their life. And everyone, most parents I talk to are frustrated. Like, how is anyone supposed to know? No one's supposed to know, but you're supposed to teach them to go towards the thing that they're passionate about and the thing that's making them light up and they're excited about. That's your job right now. And your job, the next thing is, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, and they're probably going to change their mind 3 or 4 or 10 more times. And that's okay. Yes. They're going to make mistakes and the mistakes are all part of the journey. But if you just say, yeah, pick it, and then they hate what they're doing. I've met people like this and like, I'm going to be a doctor. My parents want me to be a doctor. And then they're 8 years into it and hundreds of thousands of dollars of that. And they hate it, but they knew they hated it the day they started.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you wasted time and money and probably health. It probably comes back and bites you in that way too. I know I grew up with people like that and it's so sad because they were driven by their parents said you have to do this or they held something over their heads or whatever it was. But yeah, it's part of the journey. They're going to change their mind a bunch of times, know that. But you have to start with something. But if you go to the thing that you don't like immediately, you're going to be like, that's the wrong place to start. right? People say, I'll
Yeah.
just do this. I don't like it, but I'm going to do it because I'm good at it. Well, there you go. Well, now it's not going to work.
Yeah. And it goes back, like you said earlier, like fail fast and go forward, like it's like, okay, boom, boom, like try this, try this, try this, and that's how it kind of goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there, everyone has one, but and some people it's harder to do because they're more humble, but what's the greatest gift you offer the world every day?
Ugh.
So think of it as you do this like generously, you don't even think about it, and you think this is what you can bring most to most people's lives or whatever.
Well, it's so interesting because the first go-to, like when you say gifts, is like you want to answer like, well, what are your like strongest skills? But it's different, like
yes, it is.
Like I could be a skilled musician, but my gift is like writing songs or something, or writing good songs, right? So like I want to say like, yeah, I think I'm a very good teacher and coach, like understanding, that how to do that well, but like I think the gift is really making everyone feel seen and heard and offering a compassionate presence. I don't know if that's really something.
I love that.
That's what comes up, like offering that. Like, doesn't mean I'm not like tough or hard, but it's like you're okay just as you are, and having everyone feel seen for where they are right now on this path.
I love that. So, I love that compassionate presence. I don't know if you've heard this before. This is the first time I've heard it in the last week, explained the difference between compassion and empathy. Because obviously there's empathy, and there's compassion. And the way this person was, Esther Hicks was describing it, she said, compassion is being able to feel what the other person's feeling, or empathize with them without changing your vibration. So staying positive and in that high, like I can help you, or I'm not going to be bogged down by it, but still being compassionate. And empathy is, I feel you, but then you really get sunk into their lower vibration, like the negative, the pain, the whatever it is. And then you try to get out of that. And now you're like, wow, you're really feeling it for them. And I'm a very empathetic person, and I'm realizing that's not necessarily always the best, because then you're in their pain with them, and then you can't either help them get out, or you can't help them at that vibration. You can't help them at that level, because you're just sitting in it with them. Instead of, I'm not saying just being positive is going to lift them out of it, but being compassionate with like, well, how can I help you with that? Or what are some things we can do? Or what's the first thing that you need, or whatever it is. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I thought it was
because they call that empathetic distress in a sense, because you can get so bogged down in feeling what somebody's feeling, but like compassion is where you can actually take action. It's like either there's like two people crying, or you can feel for them, but then you're like, okay, well, then now let me help you. Like, what can we do? Where you can actually do something. But you're right. And actually, compassion meditation does something a little differently than empathy. Like, you have to have empathy to have compassion. But, when you do compassion meditation, it actually shifts you from that place of like empathetic distress, like totally feeling at that same level, to being able to act for somebody. So it's more pro-social.
That makes sense. And it makes sense that, because I always used to think, how do therapists do this for a living and not go home like so weighed down? It's like, because they're compassionate without being the empathy that's going to like hinder them and get them in a different frame of mind that they can't help. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I love that compassionate presence. So that's a great gift. And I'm noticing that this is the hardest question for people to answer. I thought it was, people like the question, and I just came up with it at the beginning of this year. I'm like, I want to just add this just to make it a little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm going for is, but the feeling of like bragging about what you're good at, and not being humble, but you can still say like, this is the gift I bring. And I like that. It's usually the things people are telling you you're really good at, but people get so like, they think it's too egotistical to say I have a gift. So, but I'm asking the question. So
yeah, it's just again, like that gift versus skill. There's like this, I can't remember what it was. There's like this Hawaiian teacher, whatever it is. It's like I don't know what it is. It's like a educational thing. They call it like guts on the table or something. And every kid has to go around. I might be making this up, but every kid has to go around and say like what their true names are and what's true about their community and what their gifts are. Like, so there's something about, you know, education being like gift-based versus skill-based or something. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought maybe you would know from like,
no, I have to look that up. I thought
you know, I don't know. It's called that, but
yeah, I learned some other meditation technique. It's called Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian. So I thought you were going to say that, but I'm going to look it up because, yeah, I love learning new things like that. So I'll check it out and see what it's called.
Yeah, it's that whole gift idea, you know, how you bring your gifts to the world, which is, you know, kind of like what you were saying before, like when, like what advice you'd give to somebody getting started. It's like, well, there's a lot of different ways to bring your gifts, I guess, in a sense, you know, like
I love
that you can get stuck in. It doesn't have to be in the way you think it's supposed to be, which is hard. I mean, I have been sucked into that all the time. Like, oh, I should have been doing, you know, like my degrees in, you know, economics, you know, like, you know, I thought I was going to go.
The double, it's economics and marketing. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I was an economics poli-sci major, and then I got an MBA. I thought I was going to go to medical school in the beginning. Like, I mean, so it's like, you know, who knew that I was going to end up with yoga studios and doing health coaching, you know? So like, there's just a lot of different ways to bring it out. And sometimes it's not so traditional.
Almost always it's not traditional. I love that too. There's lots of ways to bring your gifts to the world. I'm going to quote you on that. What do you, so if someone wants to, can they take yoga classes from you online, and how do they get in touch with you? And you said you're doing coaching now too?
Yes. So kind of bigger picture coaching on all aspects of wellness. So I bring in a lot of like nutrition background, health stuff, you name it, in terms of like yoga, meditation, you know, like I've got Ayurveda training, like lots of tools to bring in, you know, that come into that. But you could go to truenorthwell.com, you know, and take and either do like, you know, they could sign up for like a free consult, or we also have all of our virtual yoga classes and recordings and all that stuff. And we'll hopefully do some stuff in real life at some point coming up.
I was going to ask you, are you planning on opening anything in the near future?
Yeah, I'm looking at some smaller like shared spaces. You know, I think at this point, it'll just be a smaller version of what it was, you know.
I think people are craving that too. And I know, I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking the same thing. Like, okay, how can it just doesn't need to sit, the space doesn't need to sit empty when you're not using it. Everyone can share it. It's a kind of a cool concept. And I know people are just craving to get back out there and be with other people and communicate live, you know.
I know. I mean, I miss it a lot, you know, of just even those really simple interactions, you know, that, I think we all need. It's like, you know.
Yeah, probably my favorite thing about, as far as being grateful, like with Zoom. So when you're out and about, you're finally connecting with other people, and people have their masks on and you can't read their face or see anything about them really. And then they're mumbling and you can't hear them. But at least on Zoom, we can see each other's faces, and we're connecting this way. Cause I get excited about going out, and I'm like, well, it's only half the thing anyways, because I don't even know. Is someone squinting? Are they looking at me? Are they, you know? And I'm just really looking forward to the day when we can just not have them on, or be, you know, safe distance, and not have a weird look if you don't have yours on, so we can start seeing people's faces. And I miss that.
I know. It's like the hardest at the grocery store. Like I can't even like smile at somebody watching, like, you know, they can't even tell. Like I didn't mean to run into their cart, you know.
I know. So hopefully, I know it's coming, and we're on the way up, thank goodness. And I think the worst is behind us, and now we're all definitely more grateful of lots of things we weren't even considering before. So there's obviously a lot of good lessons in all of this. So
I think so.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Thanks for doing what you do. And people can get in touch with you at truenorthwell.com.
Yep, that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for being here, and take care. I appreciate you. You said lots of great things, and I can't wait for people to hear your messages.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.